Hello everyone, welcome to our first Zbrush project. This one's going to be a rock, which sounds fairly simple, but it'll be a good exercise in exploring the tools we were just discussing in the introductory lesson. So, to begin with, make sure that you are not using your mouse. Mouses are off limits for this project. It is tablet only time. So, this is what you should be looking at right when you start. What we're going to want to do is just to change the shape a little bit. So I'm going to use my move tool. Again, if you want to make it to where you're not dealing with a uniform symmetrical rock, you might want to turn symmetry off. So to do that, we'll go over to our transform tool and turn off active symmetry. Now I'm going to go and press S, and this will allow me to change the base shape a little bit. So I just want to bring this side out over here. And there's really no rhyme or reason to this. It's just supposed to be a rock. I'm basically going to try to be making something that's more like a basalt style rock. Boulder, sort of, maybe. So I'm just stretching it out so that way we'll have a bit of a flat spot on one side. And then zoom out a little bit. Again, remember, zoom out is hold down Alt, click with your mouse, and you let go of Alt, and you do up and down with your pen, it will zoom in and out. Okay, this seems like it's almost a good starting point. Not too bad. Maybe this is a little bit too much. Okay, that's not bad. Let's tinker around a little bit with our clay buildup. We'll just add a little bit of buildup around some of these areas here. Go around the side here. Build up some of these areas. Okay. I'm just scratching away here. This is supposed to be kind of like a SketchUp, so don't feel like you're trying to agonize to make this rock look specifically like one thing or another. And you definitely don't need to follow my example, just that kind of flow, I guess. You don't want to have any spots that are smooth and untouched, though, when it comes to running your clay buildup over it. Okay. Zoom out, see what we're looking at. Okay, that looks pretty good. So from here, we're going to now run our trim dynamic brush is what I want to use next. I'm not really worried about trying to get texture in here. We're going to use our texturing program for that. I just want the shape to be right. So now that I have the bulk of the shape down, now I'm going to go through and refine it down a bit with my trim dynamic, and it's going to leave it looking a little bit polished, but so I'm going to lose some of this texture information. That's fine. Usually what I'm doing when I'm going through here is I'm looking at going up to the ridges here and doing spiraling movements, and then picking up and moving, making more spiraling movements, which kind of gives you the kind of chipped away look that you might get from a basalt rock. And just keep changing your camera perspective because the trim dynamic is based off of your camera angle. So like that. Okay. Okay, that's looking all right. Just keep changing your camera angle so you keep getting these interesting kind of spots. You might need to maybe make my brush size a little bit smaller in here. That way I don't just destroy the kind of lull they have in here at the bottom. Okay. Just make a flat spot there. Let's do a little bit right in here. Okay. Like that. When you're doing this project, you can do a few of these. You might want to do like up to 3 rocks. Maybe make a stalactite or stalagmite, get a couple pictures as reference. I'm not using one, but it's mostly because I've done this several times. So I know generally what my basalt rock should kind of look like, but if you've never done one before, might be a good opportunity to look up some reference images before you just dive right on into what we're doing right now. If you're not getting enough resolution in this, we can go ahead and step up. So we can go over to our geometry and add some more geometry to make it to where we're not ending up with these, we can see the quads. So if we do a divide, that will smooth that out a bit. That's good. Let's go back here and just keep on working this rock over. Kind of like this little divide here, so let's see if I can emphasize that a bit more. Turn the camera and go the other way. Okay, like that. Keep stepping away from it to make sure we're not working too close. Keep in mind also like what maybe the size of your rock is. If this is supposed to be more like a pebble, or if this is a bigger rock. Like for me, I'm thinking this is more like a 2-foot kind of boulderish rock. That's my thoughts. Okay. All right, liking some of those ridges. You might want to split this one so it's a little less uniform. There we go. Same thing with this part here. Just split that, break up the uniformity of it. I want to do some of that down here too. Just on the ridges. Make it look like that kind of chipped away over time. Okay, that's pretty good. If you want to add a couple little cracks in here, totally we can add those in there too. Maybe I'll play around, throw a couple little cracks in mine too. Let's go over to our dam standard and decide where would be a good spot for a crack to be. Like maybe down here. Let's see how that looks. Make our brush size smaller, and dam is going to cut in, so that's what we want anyways. And okay, I'm going to go over it a couple times. Okay, I'm not going to do too much with the cracks because our texture program is going to do a lot of that for us. But I want to give them something to work off of, so like have one be a little bit better defined. So now that I have the cut in for where I want the crack to be at, I have to then pinch it so it's a bit tighter, not so squishy feeling. So my size a little bit bigger here, and start up here, just start to bring it together. The brush is going to bring together the high points on your crack, so you don't want to run it like side to side. You want to go with the direction your crack is going. Okay. And maybe like, it's not quite the way you want. You can come over here to your remove tool and adjust this a little bit. Just go over here and just pull the crack out a bit more in that way. Maybe this isn't sharp enough. Smooth out where I was moving so it doesn't look like I just smudged the geometry. Okay. And maybe I'll pinch this spot here a little bit more too. There we go. Okay, zoom back. Crack looks alright. So you can do a couple of those if you want to. I'm just going to leave the one in there because, like I said, our texturing program is going to do most of that work for us. Okay, so that's good for here. I'm going to go ahead and call it. I'm not going to make 3 different rocks. I'm going to have you guys go ahead and do that as your homework. But our next destination is going to be a different piece of software. If you're familiar with Maya, that's where we're going. I will very lightly go over how we're going to be using it inside of Maya. So if you're not familiar with Maya at all, I'll give you just enough to be able to do the part that we're going to be doing inside of Maya. If you want to dive in further, I have other Maya lessons. Go and reference those. Okay, so we're getting ready to export this over to Maya. So we're going to go ahead and start by deleting our lower layers. So we're at our base layer here. And then we're going to use our decimation master. So underneath Maya, it's underneath Z plugins. And if you don't have it over here because you have the full version, most likely you have the decimation master over on this side. But like I said, I'm working with Zbrush core, so my tools are a little more truncated on what I'm allowed to use. So decimation master is what I'm after, and I want to bring it down to about 20K is good. Okay, So it's already done. This is the, well, just about done. There we go. So this is the same model I just made, but down to 20,000 polygons, so much more reasonable. We're now going to send this over to Maya. So we're going to go to Export. Okay. And let's go ahead and create a folder on our desktop. New folder, and we'll just call this one Zbrush projects, class projects. Okay, and then we'll go in here and we'll call this one rock _1. If you have more than one, you can do 1, 2, 3 as you're going along them, as you go along creating them. So we have OBJ format, and that's fine, so hit save. There we go. Okay, so I've already opened Maya just to save a little bit of time, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump into Maya as well. So we'll just go ahead and close this, and we're going to jump over into Maya. Okay, we'll do a new project. Okay, and then we're going to bring in the rock that we just made. So we're going to go to File, we're going to go to Import, and we're going to our ZBrush. Put it on our desktop. ZBrush class projects. There's our rock object we just made. So let's go ahead and import that. Okay, there's our rock. And as a crash course for Maya, like I said, I'll give you a quick intro on how to navigate Maya. So we are back using our mouse, not our tablet. So for navigating around the 3D viewport, it will be Alt on a PC. Alt, left mouse button, and that will let you rotate around the object. The mouse wheel will let you zoom in and out. If you click and hold Alt and the middle mouse button by clicking in the mouse button, it will let you drag the screen around. Okay, so those are your basics for navigating around Maya. If you want to focus, like let's say you ended up out here, you're trying to get to your selected objects. If you click on them and press F, that will frame them into your camera view. So there we are. This is our rock. But as you can see, the geometry that ZBrush gave us, our sculpt in, is all in triangles, and it's a lot of geometry. And we can't really send this over to our texture program looking like this. What we need to do is generate good UVs, a good remesh of this, so that when we get to our next program, which will be our texturing program, we'll have something that's usable both for the texturing program and the destination, which is either a game engine or back inside of Maya. So what we want to do is to move on to what we call retopology. So we're going to start out by selecting this, and up at the top here you'll see there's these magnets along the top bar. There's one that's got a grid, there's a little curved line, a dot, a little target, and another grid. And the last one over here is a magnet that doesn't have anything on it. And what that last magnet is called Object Live. If you hover over the top, you can see Make the Selected Object Live. That's what we want. So with this object here selected, we're going to click on this magnet, and you'll see over here that right next to the magnet, it now says Group 1, whatever this is. It's the name of the object. And I can verify that inside my outliner by clicking on this icon over here on the left on the bottom. This is the outliner. It says rock 1 _ group, and then it's got a randomized number. I'm going to simplify this name a little bit, just double click on it and just bring this down to rock 1. Okay, looks a little more clean over here. Okay, so now we're ready to rock. No pun intended. Okay, so now we can't click on this, right? If I click on this, nothing happens. So what do we do now? Now we're going to get into our modeling toolkit. That is, if you look over on the right at the top, there is this box with a hammer on it. Click on that. That'll open this menu over here on the right hand side called the modeling toolkit. And down at the bottom right of the modeling toolkit, you'll see it says tools, and then the bottom right one is quad draw tool, and that's the one we want. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And the goal here is to basically create a wrapping paper going around this rock that is all squares. So 4 corners. We don't want any triangles, and we are trying to stay away from anything that is what's called an n-gon, so more than 4 sides. Okay, so we'll just start up here at the top. So I'll click 2 dots, and then 2 more dots, and we can kind of visualize what we got going on here. This can be a quad. So to preview it, if I hold down Shift and I move my mouse into the center of those 4 dots, now it shows you kind of a highlighted square. So if I click with my mouse on the left mouse button click, it'll complete that. Now I have a quad here. So that is the beginning of our retopology. It's created a new object over here. You can see it says Poly Surface 1 in my outliner. And I'm going to basically go ahead and run this all the way around the outside. You can see it's matching the surface, which is great. So if I want to put 2 more dots right here, hold down Shift, click. Now I have another quad. We can do the same thing over here on this side and just continue around. So I want to get this surface area as my target to begin with. And I can make some bigger jumps to save some time. So if I come down here, okay, you can see I'm trying to match this edge here a little bit as well, which sometimes causes a little bit of problems since it's kind of a circular, or in the end it'll be a kind of like a all-inclusive object, so that we might run to some creative solutions to make sure we're not getting triangles or n-gons. Sometimes they end up happening either way, but we're going to do our best to avoid them. Okay, so we're going to work our way around here, just 2 dots at a time, sometimes just 1 dot in this case, as we're working around the border edge. Okay, this one over here, we can maybe move this one a little closer to this edge. Cool thing is this quad draw tool has a few other tools built into it. So for instance, if you're familiar with Maya, there's a tool called the Insert Edge Loop tool. So if I want to hold down Control, still I'm using a PC, this might be Command in a Mac, you can see that as I hover my mouse along this edge, it's now giving me a preview of an Insert Edge Loop. Same thing if I went to the vertical edges, it'll give me a horizontal preview. And then all I have to do is click, and all of a sudden I have more geometry, and it is again still matching with the surface. So that's cool, like that. Okay, so keep on moving along. I'm going to move a little bit faster now that I've gotten through the intro on what I'm doing here. I'm just 1 dot at a time, just filling in this geometry. And keep in mind that the more you add in here, the more difficult it's going to actually be to complete, because as you get around to the back side, you're going to have to match up to anything you've already started on the front side. So if you can keep your geometry limited, it makes it to where problem solving, how you're going to complete it, becomes simpler. Any way you spin it, when it comes back around to the conclusion of a retop, the end pieces, you have to be a little creative on how to get them to finish up nice and neat. So to start with, it's pretty easy. Kind of pick wherever you want and you start working. The end is usually where things start getting a little bit more tricky to do the transition back. Okay, so I'm going to work around the top here a little bit. Okay, and keep working this one over here. Okay, so now you can see I have to now transition over to the back side, and this is where things sometimes get a little slippery. So we're going to do kind of a border and then reassess how I want to proceed. You see, if I want to go straight down, now I have this big old chunk down here I'm trying to go for. So do I continue down? I think I'm going to continue around here. And this first time through it might be kind of painful, so that's part of the reason why we're starting with a rock, guys, is because the anatomy of a rock is a lot simpler than starting with a humanoid or a creature type character for a retop. Pretty low risk of screwing it up on a rock, because if it does screw up a little bit, you know, it's not organic, it's not going to be animated, so it's okay, it's not going to be the end of the world. Just trying to get good even coverage going around the outside here. Okay, that's all right. Let's we need more geometry coming around over here, so you can see how these ones are going to contribute to how this coverage is going to work. So I'm going to need to have more geometry between these two coming around. So let's just add one extra loop there, an extra loop there. Okay. Just clicking, moving, adjusting these, trying to even them out a little bit. Okay. Let's keep bringing them around here. Complete that, complete that, complete that. All right, so now this runs all the way around to some degree. Now I got to deal with the bottom. This is where sometimes things get a little more tricky, just because, well, looks like I didn't quite get to the bottom, so I'll have like this whole section here I got to work over. Let's do this part here. The bottom part will be a little more tricky just because I got to make everything that's running around tie up at the bottom, and sometimes that's where we end up with a triangle or an n-gon if we're not careful. Okay, we're almost done with that line. Okay. So now I gotta work on closing up this side here. So I'm going to, yeah, let's do something like that. See how that one still is a quad, even though the way it came in there ended kind of weird on a corner, but they all are quads, so that's all that's important. Okay. You can see how the more geometry I added, I was adding more and more work for myself when I came down to the end here, because I have to go through and close up and attach everything from the geometry as it runs around to the next location. So be mindful of that. I know it's when it comes to retopping, it's easy to start just wanting to add a bunch of geometry and then having to deal with repercussions afterwards. So if I was to want to come over here, you can see how it wants to run over to the other side, which I might have to add a couple in here just so that I can run these guys back in, because we're technically getting towards the bottom. So if I want to go like this and then run these guys all back, I'm going to leave a lot of geometry in the bottom, but the bottom doesn't really need it, since it's supposed to be the least visible spot. Okay, so that's good. Now I can go ahead and start trying to bridge these things across. This is where it'll get a little more interesting. So I'm going to go make some big jumps. We'll do a little, I call a band-aid. Well, I'll do one side here, and I'll drag this over and connect it. Okay. I'm going to take this side over here and connect to the other side. There we go. Make a couple little breaks here. Have that one jump across. Clearly these two need to come over here, so I'm going to fill those ones in. Okay. And then how about these guys? How are these going to all connect in? So I got 3 edges here, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. So if I adjust the bottom down here a little bit, this one can run into that one. So there's one. And then if I adjust this one, it's going to be 1. If I add an edge right there, these can roll like that. This is kind of discouraged. It's a 5 point, but these are all still quads. So an acceptable conclusion in that spot. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. So can't jump across as easily now because it will run backwards into itself. So I have to actually complete these and connect them in some way. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to basically be doing a lot of what I did where I push these back a bit and like turn them into quads like that. Okay. Complete that one. Complete that one. Complete that one. Complete that. That goes right there, and that's the quad right there. Okay, so not elegant on the bottom, but they're all quads and we're done. Okay, so we are, let's see here, we are at close to a half an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it now. This will be the retopped version of our rock. It is very important when it comes to sending these over to our next program that one is directly on top of the other. So when you complete this, please do not move your retop away from your high-res model, because all the information from your high-res model will be projected down to your low-res. So if you move them away from each other, they can't bake into each other. And the idea is that we want all the details from our high-res to be baked into our low-res. So leave them alone. If this is what yours looks like right now, perfect to some degree or another. Go ahead and save now. We're going to go to File, Save Scene As, and we'll put this still inside our Zbrush class projects. If you're familiar with Maya, this is not the way I normally have you guys save your scene files, because generally you'll want to create a project inside of Maya, which I may show you later on. But it's revolved around the way that Maya sets things up. So just for the sake of having everything in one place, I'm going to have you put them in this folder for this time. Next time, I may actually have you create a Maya scene project and then organize them to where the ZBrush parts actually go into the Maya project. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple and just put them into a regular folder on the desktop. So this one will just be called rock, and you can see that as an MB file, Maya binary. That's fine. Just go ahead and save as. So now we have inside our folder over here, there'll now be 2 files. We have a Maya rock.mb, and then we also have the rock obj file that came from ZBrush. So that's good. So we're going to go ahead and save here, and then we're going to start the project. Next project, we're going to do UVs, and then we'll do the introduction to Substance Painter. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.